Welcome everyone. I'm your host, Mr.Night-Terror. In the shadows of the night, where darkness dances with fear, welcome to a world of chilling tales that will haunt your dreams and send shivers down your spine. Subscribe to my channel and join me as we embark on this haunting adventure together. But beware, once you enter this realm, there's no turning back. I have always led an ordinary life like an ordinary guy until I met Sara. Sara had an aura of mystery in her personality that drew me in, closer to her like a moth to a flame. Her eyes seemed to hold secrets of the world, and her smile seemed to hide a world of untold stories beneath that beautiful face of hers. Right from the moment we locked eyes with each other, I knew that there was something special about her that has always tempted me to acknowledge her in all possible ways. Our first date was purely magical and mesmerizing. We laughed, we talked, and we discovered each other with our shared interests and passions about life. The moment we came to know each other, I felt an instant connection, a deep resonance that I had never experienced before. As we spent more time with each other, our bond grew stronger and stronger. We shared our dreams, fears, secrets, and many more. We opened up to each other in ways we never had with anyone else before. For about a year, everything was pretty perfect, but everything was too good to be true. We explored the world together and enjoyed every bit of it. Our love was just radiating like a beacon of light in the darkness of this world. I cherished every moment with Sara, and I was grateful to have found someone like Sara, who understood me so completely and whom I can put my trust on entirely. But as time went on, I began to notice strange occurrences that made me question my conviction of this relationship. The subtle changes that I started observing in Sara's behavior weren't like a casual transition of personality. It was something dark and ominous. The series of strange occurrences started with little things that were overlooked normally, but it wasn't that subtle to overlook this time. She would sometimes stare into space for hours, lost in her thoughts, her expression distant and detached. Whenever I approached her in this kind of situation to comfort her, she used to get angry and insisted on being left alone. Other times I would catch her whispering to herself in a language or tone which I did not understand, and her words were too soft to comprehend. At first, I dismissed it as nothing more than quirky habits, and I thought that we will get over it together. I thought this might be her way to cope with her depression. But as these incidents became more frequent, unease started to settle in my heart. One evening, I arrived at Sara's apartment earlier than expected. As I entered her apartment, I observed an uncanny environment which was suspicious right from the beginning. I silently ambled through her apartment to find her. As I entered her room, I found her standing in the center of the room, surrounded by flickering candles, her arms spread, and her eyes facing the roof as if calling upon Devil himself. The walls were adorned with strange symbols of ancient cults, and an open book lay before her. I was shocked to see her like that. I silently leaned over to see the open book in front of her, and my pulse quickened as I recognized the book. It was the Devil's Bible. My curiosity mingled with fear. I approached Sara cautiously. She looked up. Her eyes were vacant, yet filled with an intensity that I had never seen before. After an episode of reviving her back into her existence by shaking her for some time, she finally spoke. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft, laced with an unfamiliar authority. "I didn't want you to find out everything like this," she said, with her tone both apologetic and tinged with a hint of sadness. I was in the state of shock and couldn't comprehend what's been happening around me. I asked out of curiosity, "What is all this, Sara?" My voice was trembling with fear. At first, she hesitated to speak up, but then she began to speak. Her words were painting a picture of a life hidden in the shadows. Her voice, once sweet and soothing, now carried a haunting tone, as if whispered by unseen spirits lurking in the shadows. With every syllable, the room grew colder, the air thickening with an ominous presence. I could feel an invisible force closing in around us, tightening its grip on my racing heart. It was as if the veil between the natural and supernatural had been torn apart, exposing me to a realm of darkness I never knew existed. She confessed to practicing witchcraft, of delving into the dark arts long before we had met. She explained that she had kept her past hidden from me, fearing that it would drive me away from her. "I love you, Mark," she said, her voice filled with genuine emotion. But there are things about me, about my past, that you won't understand. I stood there with my mind racing, trying to process the revelation that just occurred in front of my eyes. I wanted to believe that Sara was playing an elaborate prank, and this was all a misunderstanding. But the seriousness in her eyes and the weight of the moment told me otherwise. My mind became a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I truly loved Sara, and there was a part of me which desperately wanted to believe that her ominous past wouldn't be a problem in their future. But there was a consistent and undeniable sense of unease, a deep-rooted fear that gnawed at my gut. I couldn't digest it. I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that crept through my veins as I delved deeper into Sara's mysterious world. My days turned into a blur of obsession and fear. I felt a sense of impending doom closing in on me, a presence that lurked just beyond the corners of my vision. It was as if the veil between the ordinary world and the supernatural had grown thin, and I was caught in the midst of its unraveling. In the days that followed, my thoughts were consumed by doubts and questions. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking on a precipice, teetering between two worlds, my old life and the mysterious realm that Sara seemed to inhabit. It wasn't a pleasant experience for me. It was rather disturbing. One night, unable to resist the pull of curiosity any longer, I found myself delving into the depths of the internet, searching for any information I could find about the Devil's Bible and the occult. The search results were as disturbing as they were fascinating. The more I discovered, the more I realized the depth of Sara's involvement in the occult. After that, I spent countless nights scouring the internet for information on the Devil's Bible, the dark arts, and the symbols that were etched into the walls of her apartment. I realized that they were not just random drawings, but part of a complex ritual. The candles that were lit in the dead of night seemed to serve a purpose beyond mere decoration, and the whispered chants I had dismissed as figments of my imagination now echoed through my mind like a haunting melody. I discovered that the Devil's Bible, also known as the Codex Gigas, was an ancient text believed to have been written by a monk in the 13th century. The monk was allegedly consumed by the devil, and devil used him to do things that we can't even imagine. It was said to contain the entirety of human knowledge, including dark incantations and forbidden rituals. Legend had it that the book was so cursed that it was believed to have been penned by the devil himself. As I read more about the occult and witchcraft, I stumbled upon accounts of people who had encountered similar situations. Stories of relationships tainted by hidden darkness, where love turned to fear, and the occult seeped into everyday life. The parallels were uncanny, and a chill ran down my spine. Determined to confront Sara once more, I mustered the courage to bring up my discoveries in front of her. I thought of it to know her side of the story, and to give her a chance to justify herself. I wanted to understand the extent of her involvement in the occult, to know if our love stood a chance against the shadows that seemed to encroach upon us. I went to her apartment again. She was still sitting in her room. Electricity was cut off, and only light in the apartment was candles, flickering everywhere around me. I approached her fearfully, and when I broached the subject, Sara's demeanor changed drastically, sending a shiver down my spine. Her once warm and inviting eyes now flickered with an eerie mix of guilt and defiance, and her voice took on an icy coldness that pierced through my soul. "You were never meant to know," she whispered, her words barely audible. I pleaded with her to open up and to trust me with the truth, but Sara remained silent, retreating into herself as if an invisible barrier had been erected between us. It was as if the darkness she had been hiding had taken hold of her, transforming her into a complete stranger. A tense silence settled between us as Sara's gaze bore into me, her lips curled into a sinister smile that didn't reach her eyes. The room seemed to darken, the air thickening with an oppressive weight. The very atmosphere seemed to be transformed, as if an unseen force had cast its malevolent presence upon us. In that chilling moment, the flickering candlelight casting grotesque shadows across her room, I could feel the tendrils of darkness reaching out, coiling around my heart with a tight grip. The love that once blossomed between us now felt tainted, overshadowed by an insidious evil that had slithered its way into our lives. Sara's voice, when she finally spoke, was a haunting whisper that sent chills down my spine. "You want to know the truth, Mark? You want to know the truth about the depths of my involvement in the occult?" Her words hung in the air, dripping with a foreboding heaviness. As her voice trailed off, a gust of wind swept through the room, causing the candle flames to dance wildly, casting eerie shadows that seemed to writhe and contort. The walls around us seemed to close in, the very fabric of reality warping with a sinister energy. In the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of something. It was like a fleeting figure darting across the room. My heart thundered in my chest as I turned my head, but there was nothing there, only the lingering sense of a presence that seemed to mock me from the shadows. A primal fear gripped me, the kind that twists your insides and tells you that you are teetering on the precipice of something far more terrifying than you could have ever imagined. I could feel the weight of centuries of dark rituals, a chilling energy that emanated from the very core of Sara's being. Her eyes, once filled with love and tenderness, now glowed with a sinister intensity. You think you can handle the truth, Mark? Can you bear witness to the depths of darkness that lie within me? As the words hung in the air, a cacophony of whispers filled the room, rising from the very walls themselves. Unintelligible voices spoke in hushed tones, their words laced with an ancient language, one that resonated with a primal, unsettling familiarity. A chill ran down my spine, and the room seemed to close in further, the walls closing in on me like a claustrophobic nightmare. I gasped for breath, feeling the tendrils of darkness tighten around me, squeezing the life out of me inch by inch. Just as I thought I couldn't bear the weight of the ominous atmosphere any longer, Sara's cold, haunting laughter filled the room. It reverberated off the walls, each echoing note a mocking reminder of the treacherous path I had stumbled upon. In that bone-chilling moment, I realized that our love, once pure and full of promise, was now entangled in a web of malevolence and secrets beyond my wildest nightmares. And as the room faded into darkness, my heart sank, for I knew that the shadows had claimed Sara, body and soul, and I was left to face the horrors that awaited me alone. Silence took over the apartment. Just as despair threatened to consume me, a flicker of light pierced the darkness. A match was struck, and a single candle came to life, casting a feeble glow in the desolate room. I turned my gaze towards its flame, a glimmer of hope amidst the encroaching shadows. In the trembling candlelight, the contours of a devilish face became faintly visible. A sinister grin played across its lips, its eyes glinting with an unholy fire. It was Sara, but a devil also. Panic surged through my veins, but I couldn't tear my gaze away from that horrifying face that emerged from the darkness. The room seemed to breathe with a malevolent energy, its walls pulsating with a sinister force. The air grew thick with an acrid scent, as if the very essence of evil infiltrated every corner. I stumbled backward, my heart racing, my mind racing to comprehend the horror before me. As the candle flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to mock my fear, Sara stepped forward. It seemed like someone approaching me with a devilish intent. Her presence was casting a suffocating aura around me. She spoke with a voice that resonated with a chilling blend of malice and seduction, whispering promises of power and unending torment. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, to escape the clutches of this diabolical entity, but something held me in place. Was it curiosity? The desire to uncover the truth behind the horrors that had consumed Sara? Or was it a morbid fascination with the darkness that threatened to swallow me whole? A mirthless chuckle escaped her lips, resonating through the room like a tormenting symphony. Suddenly she fell into my hands like a dead leaf falling off from the tree. She fainted in my hands, and when she woke up and sometime after I sprinkled water on her face, she was casual as if nothing happened. And she said, "You wanted to ask something?" I responded with another question of her involvement in these ominous activities. "I don't know what you're talking about, Mark," she said. "I'm not involved in anything like that." "I've seen the candles," I said. "I've heard the chanting." "That's just my hobby," she said. "It's not a big deal." "It is a big deal," I said. "I'm worried about you." "You don't have to worry about me," she said. "I'm fine." But I could tell that she wasn't fine. There was something dark and twisted lurking behind her eyes, something that I didn't recognize. "I want you to promise me that you'll stop," I said. "Promise me that you'll stay away from the occult." She smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was a cruel smile. "I can't promise you that," she said. "The occult is my life." And she started laughing again. Room was again filled with horrifying chuckle of her, resonating through the apartment, tormenting me to my core. I knew that I had to get away from her. I had to get away from the occult. But I was afraid. I was afraid of what she might do to me. I was afraid of what she might become. I turned and walked away, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still there, watching me, waiting for me. I knew that I would never be the same, but with a surge of adrenaline, I turned on my heels and fled from the room, leaving behind the oppressive darkness and the haunting presence that threatened to consume me. But as I raced down the dimly lit corridor, my heart pounding in my chest, I couldn't shake the feeling that the devilish presence still lingered around me, its laughter echoing in the recesses of my mind. My life took a tragic turn. Our love, which was once vibrant, began to wither under the weight of unspoken secrets. I could feel a growing sense of dread, a realization that I was teetering on the edge of an abyss from which there might be no return. Little did I know, this was only the beginning of a nightmarish descent into a world far beyond my understanding. The true horrors of Sara's past were about to be unveiled. I didn't meet Sara after that for a very long time. I tried to get away with all this and forget it as soon as possible. But I was trapped into this loop of tormenting incidents, and strange activities started to happen around me so often. One stormy night, as I lay awake, my mind was consumed by swirling thoughts. A sudden crash jolted me from my thoughts. I rushed out of bed and followed the sound. My heart was pounding in my chest. The source of the noise led me to the attic, a place I had rarely ventured before. The attic door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with forgotten relics and dusty memories. I cautiously stepped inside, my footsteps muffled by the sound of rain pummeling the rooftop. As I made my way through the maze of forgotten belongings, my eyes fell upon a peculiar sight. There in the center of the attic stood an intricately drawn pentagram, surrounded by flickering candles. And, in the center of the pentagram, it was Sara. I was flabbergasted by this sight. She stood at its center, her eyes glazed over and her face pale. She held a dagger in her hand, its blade glinting ominously in the dim light. My breath caught in my throat as I realized the gravity of the situation. I had stumbled upon a ritual that seemed to involve me as an integral part of it. In fact, it was meant for me. Fear gripped my heart, but a sliver of determination pushed me forward. I had to confront Sara, to understand the dark forces that were at play. "Sara!" I called out, my voice was trembling. "What are you doing? What is all this?" She turned slowly, and she fixed her gaze on me, but it seemed like she was looking right through me. "It's too late, Mark. You were never meant to discover this. The curse, it's already in motion." Her voice was distant, devoid of emotion. "What curse, Sara? Please let me go. What is this all about?" I cried. "You shouldn't have intervened in the first place," she said coldly. My mind raced, trying to comprehend the gravity of the situation. I had unwillingly stepped into a web of darkness, entangled in Sara's twisted secrets. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but the picture we painted was one of horror and despair. As I took a step closer to Sara, the room seemed to grow colder, the air thick with an otherworldly energy. I reached out, desperate to grab hold of her, to bring her back from the abyss that threatened to swallow us both. But just as my fingertips brushed against her skin, a blinding light erupted from the pentagram. In that blinding moment, I felt a searing pain coursing through my body, as if my very essence was being torn apart. The world around me twisted and distorted, and the last thing I heard was Sara's echoing laughter, her devilish chuckles, filled with a haunting blend of triumph and madness. When I opened my eyes, I found myself lying on the attic floor, the pentagram etched into my memory like a scar or a mere dream. I couldn't figure out if it was a dream, or I saw that all with my own eyes. The ritual had been completed, and the curse had been set into motion. I was now entangled in a web of darkness, a pawn in Sara's quest for revenge. Another day. I woke up in a cold sweat. My heart was racing and my body embling. It had been weeks since Sara had placed the curse upon me, and its effects were growing more potent with each passing day. The nightmares had become vivid and horrifying, images of torment and despair that lingered long after I woke. Sleep became an enemy, a portal into a twisted realm where my worst fears came to life. During the day, I found myself plagued by an unrelenting sense of dread. Shadows seemed to writhe and contort in my peripheral vision, whispering secrets that I couldn't decipher. I felt the weight of an unseen presence, an entity that watched my every move, as if it is waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Desperate for answers and a way to break free from the curse, I delved deeper into the occult. I sought out ancient texts, consulted experts in dark magic, and scoured forbidden knowledge. But the more I searched, the more I realized the extent of my trouble. The curse had its roots in Sara's own pact with darkness, a force beyond my comprehension. As I immersed myself in the research of that cult, I discovered a glimmer of hope. Legends spoke of a ritual, a dangerous and forbidden ritual, that had the power to reverse curses and break the bonds of dark magic. It was a perilous path, one that could help me undo this cult, but I knew that I had no other choice but to do it. With a newfound determination, I embarked on a perilous journey, collecting the rare and macabre ingredients required for the ritual. Each step brought me closer to the edge of darkness, but I pressed on, my desire for freedom eclipsing the fear that threatened to consume me. The night of the ritual arrived, and I stood before an altar adorned with ancient symbols, a candle flickering in the dimly lit room. I closed my eyes, focusing my thoughts, and began to chant the ancient incantations I had unearthed from ancient books I found during my research. The air crackled with an electric energy, and a surge of hope coursed through my veins. But right at the moment when I thought that I had the upper hand, the window banged open and a cold gust of wind extinguished the candle. Darkness swallowed the room, and a low, guttural laughter echoed through the air. The curse, it seemed, was far stronger than I had anticipated. The forces of evil, unleashed by Sara's vengeance, were determined to keep their hold on me. Panic gripped my heart as I fumbled in the darkness, desperately trying to relight the candle. But the shadows seemed to grow thicker. The darkness all around me was suffocating and I was barely breathing. The presence I had felt lurking in the corners of my vision now surrounded me. Its hateful intent was evident. Suddenly, a voice in a cold and mocking tone cut through the darkness. "You thought you could break free. You thought you could defy me." It was Sara, her voice a twisted melody of triumph and malevolence. My heart sank. I had underestimated the depths of Sara's power and her mastery of the occult. It was as if she had become an avatar of darkness itself, an embodiment of the curse she had cast upon me. In a last desperate attempt, I whispered a plea for mercy, a cry for redemption. But Sara's laughter drowned out my words, and the room filled with an unholy aura, the curse tightening its grip around my soul. As the darkness consumed me, I realized that my quest for freedom had only brought me deeper into the clutches of the curse. I had played right into Sara's hands, becoming a pawn in her revenge, forever trapped in a realm of eternal torment. I lost all the hopes and kept ignoring the signs that were evidently leading me to my death. Then I thought of diving deeper into the dark art, to stand against Sara just to break free of the curse and live a life like a normal person would. My desperation consumed me as I delved deeper into the forbidden arts, seeking any sign of hope in breaking free from Sara's curse. I sought the counsel of renowned occultists and ventured into the darkest corners of the world, chasing whispers and ancient knowledge that might hold the key to my salvation. Days passed, and my determination wavered, but I couldn't give up. The weight of the curse pressed down on me, threatening to crush my spirit. My once hopeful eyes became hollow, and my steps were heavy with the burden of my doomed pursuit. Through my relentless search, I came across an elusive figure. It was an enigmatic witch known as Evangeline. Legends whispered her name as a sorceress capable of weaving magic so potent that it could defy even the darkest of curses. My heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and trepidation as I made my way to her secluded cabin deep within the ancient woods of the forest. The moment I crossed the threshold, I sensed an otherworldly presence. Shadows danced and flickered, their movements synchronized with the whispers that seemed to emanate from the very air. Evangeline, a figure cloaked in mystery, observed me with piercing, knowing eyes. "You seek release from a curse that binds you," do you not?" Evangeline's voice was ethereal, carrying an undercurrent of ancient wisdom. I nodded, with my voice catching in my throat. "Please, I beg of you, help me break this curse, to find freedom from the darkness that has consumed my life." Evangeline's gaze held a mix of pity and caution. "To challenge a curse of such magnitude is to invite peril upon your soul. Are you prepared to pay the price?" My desperation eclipsed my fear, and I nodded with resolute determination. "I will pay any price, endure any hardship if it means breaking free from this curse." Evangeline's eyes glimmered with a mixture of sorrow and resignation. "Very well, young one, but know this: the path to redemption is fraught with peril. You must confront your deepest fears, face the darkness within yourself." With her guidance, I embarked on a harrowing journey, traversing treacherous realms where reality blended with nightmares. The lines between my own mind and the curse's influence blurred, creating a treacherous maze that threatened to consume me entirely. As I got into the details of my own psyche, I encountered fragments of my past. These were the memories that were tainted by regret and guilt. The curse twisted them, magnifying my insecurities and doubts, tormenting me with visions of my deepest fears. But my determination grew with each trial I faced. I refused to give up to the curse's psychological grip, drawing strength from the flickering beacon of hope that was still burning within me. With every step forward, I reclaimed a part of my former self, pushing back against the malevolence that threatened to consume me entirely. At long last, I reached the climax of my journey. Finally, it was a confrontation with a spectral representation of Sara herself. The apparition stood before me, her eyes gleaming with wicked delight. "I knew you would come," the spectral Sara hissed. "You thought you could break free from me? You are mine, forever trapped in this cursed embrace." My voice trembled, but determination laced my words. "I will not let you define my destiny. I will break this curse and free myself from your clutches." With each word, I felt a surge of inner strength, channeling the fragments of my shattered spirit into an unyielding resolve. The spectral Sara shrieked in rage, unleashing a tempest of dark energy, but I stood firm with my eyes blazing with determination. With an outstretched hand, I summoned the remnants of my shattered will, intertwining my own life force with the curse itself. The room crackled with energy as I chanted an incantation, each word a battle cry against the darkness. In a blinding flash, the curse shattered, its malevolence recoiling in defeat. I collapsed to my knees, gasping for breath, my body battered and weary. The room fell into an eerie silence, and the specter of Sara dissipated, vanishing into the ether. Exhausted but triumphant, I stared at the space where Sara's apparition had stood. It seemed as if the curse was broken, and I had emerged victoriously. But as I surveyed the room, an unsettling realization settled upon me. The remnants of the curse still lingered, whispering a sinister promise of vengeance. Sinister echoes reverberated in the hushed silence, insidious promises of retribution that danced on the fringes of my awareness. A gust of wind swept across me, followed by Sara's sinister chuckles. The sinister chuckle of her forced me to reevaluate the situation. Am I free from the curse? Or would I ever break free from the curse's vengeful grip? Or would I be forever enslaved in the clutches of the occult? Evangeline assured me that now I am free, but she warned me that any stupidity would again lead me to the depth of this devilish torment. Although I am getting back to my normal life again, but the events of my past with Sara still haunts me. I constantly have the fear of her emerging from the darkness. But somehow I have escaped her curse. Or have I truly escaped her curse? Only time will unravel the answer. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a new channel, but there will be plenty more videos coming in the following weeks. So remember to like this video. If you enjoyed it, your likes help push this video to others who might enjoy it. This is Mr. Night-Terror. Stay scared, my friends.